Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Starman. Jesse. Sorry, I don't know why I said that. And you're watching the Patreon bonus stories. So, welcome to Patreon bonus stories. If you're new, this is like a continuation of Tesla Time News. We get to go a little bit more off script.
Yeah.
We get to show some stuff. We get to show kind of copyrighted content that we wouldn't be able to show on Tesla Time News without being demonetized. But since, hey, you're monetizing us, we could play...
we could play Eye of the Tiger.
We could play some music.
That's true.
Because sometimes they'll take down the video because
some music
has more power on the internet than anything else.
On anything, actually.
The craziest.
I'm a music publisher, so I know.
You have unlimited power.
Unlimited power.
It's ridiculous.
I know.
Because sometimes people will steal our videos.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, please stop doing that. YouTube, make them stop.
Well, what's funny is I've seen movie stars over the years who have like paparazzi follow them around. They're like, stop that, don't take my picture. I'm like, just play some music, dude, and then they can't do anything with that.
Great point.
If you're having your wedding, just blare some Madonna or something, and there's no way they'll be able to use the audio.
Yeah, Tesla's done that at their events.
Right.
We'll try and record something, and they're going to play music, and we can't. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway.
So I want to talk about the Victorian state government in Australia.
Ooh.
So if you're not from Australia, you might not understand what this means. It's just like the United States. There's different states. Mm-hmm. Victoria is a state in the federal government of Australia. And I want to point this out. Victorian government has no EV incentives when you're looking to buy an EV. Well, now they've introduced new legislation to tax EVs based on your mileage. So the average EV would get taxed about $255 on average per year. Mm-hmm. So luckily, we're not alone in thinking this EV tax is a bad idea. A lot of other companies and groups think it's a bad idea too. If you live in Victoria, please make some noise. And if you need some help spreading the word, maybe consider sharing this video. Now, mind you, this next video we're going to show you does have some salty language, so viewer discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm from the Australian Government, here to announce our latest plan to take a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and flush it down the dunny. You see, the car industry is currently undergoing an epoch-defining revolution from the combustion engine to electric vehicles, EVs. This presents a unique chance to rebuild our manufacturing industry, upskill our workforce, improve our air quality, whilst tackling the climate crisis and advancing human civilization. Of course, on realizing this, we said, nah, let's instead orchestrate a fear campaign about EVs so we can score points off Labor. Remember how we told you their EV policy would end the weekend because EVs can't tow your boat? Well, here's an EV towing a boat. And here's one beating a race car whilst towing another car. Here's one towing a train. And here's another one towing a fucking jetliner. But hey, our bullshit helped us win the last election. And that's why we're now ready to unveil our own EV policy. Introducing the Future Fuels Strategy, or FFS for short. And no, that's not satire. It's what we really called it. Checkmate, honest government ads shitheads. Does our EV policy include incentives to help you afford an EV? No, that would make us like governments that actually encourage EVs, like Norway, which exempts them from paying taxes, road tolls and parking fees. That's why EVs now make up 75% of new car sales there. And other countries with EV incentives are catching up. In Australia, we haven't even reached 1%. A bit like our vaccine rollout. FFS. Does it recommend electrifying our government fleet, like the US government just committed to, and which would kickstart a second-hand market of more affordable EVs? Yes. Are we going to do it? Nah. FFS. Does it set a target to phase out sales of new petrol and diesel cars like other countries have by 2030? 35? 2040? Nope. That's why car companies aren't sending us their best and most affordable EV models or opening factories here to build EVs, like the 30 new models GM has just announced. Which is why when it comes to powering choice, creating jobs and economic growth, our EV policy will ensure approximately fuck all. There are many more reasons why we should be supporting EVs that strengthen our national security by making us less dependent on foreign oil, that save us shit tons in health costs to treat illnesses linked to car exhaust fumes, such as dementia and mental illness in kids. They're even linked to lower IQ, which might explain why you keep re-electing us. And of course, they're key to tackling the climate crisis since transport is the third biggest source of emissions in Australia, most of it from cars. But why do all that when instead we can prolong our dependence on oil, make Make us the dumping ground for the world's dirtiest, least efficient cars. Make your kids sicker and dumber. And make us the world's biggest fucking losers by failing to embrace a new technology. FFS. The best part of our total lack of leadership on EVs is that it allows other dickheads to come up with dumbass policies. Hello, I'm from the Victorian government, where we're about to introduce a tax on EVs. Yep, while the rest of the world is scrambling to help people afford their first EV, we're slapping another $5,000 onto their lifetime cost. We're saying we need this tax to pay for roads since EV drivers won't pay tax on petrol. To which you might say, hey, that's like taxing ex-smokers for no longer paying tax on tobacco. You might also say, the fuel excise hasn't directly funded roads since 1959, and besides, it's a federal tax. To which we say, correct. This is just a grubby cash grab. That's what's most important, and that's what must be done.
Beers, get on the beers.
Hurry, we'll be voting on the EV tax soon. So unless you contact your local MP to stop this bullshit, we'll become the first government in the world to make it harder to afford an EV. Victorian government and Australian government. We stopped these. Authorised by the Department for Taxing Clean Air.
Oh, and did I forget to mention that Victoria does not collect a gas tax? Yeah, the Aussie federal government does, but not the state of Victoria. So they've decided to, hey, let's take the 6,000 EV owners out there and let's not only give them no incentive to buy an EV, let's also tax them. Right. I wonder why.
Yeah. So the Australian government is kind of interesting. It's a government that's corrupt, but lots of governments are corrupt. That's not it. They're corrupt in like a very specific way because it's Australia doesn't Australia produces a lot of coal and a lot of minerals. And so their industry is very strong, but there aren't that many other industries that can kind of counteract them and out corruption them.
Right.
Because look, I'm not saying that Australia is like more corrupt than say the United States. I'm an American. Right. I can, I'm just saying we're corrupt in 9 ways to Sunday.
So many more ways than you.
So many more ways that we can be corrupt that you're just like, how corrupt? In what way is this politician corrupt?
Right.
In Australia, it's like, okay, it's the minerals or it's coal.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, here's the cool part though. If you're Australian, which is that, I'm an American, right? I'm going to go back to I am an American. And so you might think that I am the most free human in the world, right? As all Americans should be, because that's what we
think.
We're Americans. But I have much less of a say of what goes on in my government because there are way more people in my country than in Australia.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So basically, a voter in Australia has more pull.
It's almost like you're a Wyoming or something, like it's almost as if, you're in a swing state or something. I'm just saying you have a lot more push and pull and power than even I do as an American.
Right.
So
use that power.
Use that power. I mean, if you're Australian, you only need like 20 people to
take over the government.
I'm just saying you don't have to take over. I'm just saying like run for your government and I don't know.
Change something. Yeah.
You're such a big country that could just be, you could run the whole world off solar. You could be the Middle East of the whole world.
I know.
Except you'd be Australian, which is way more fun.
They've got both. They've got wind and solar.
Exactly. So, I mean, you could power the whole world. Singapore is not the only country that could be importing power.
This brings up an important point. The fossil fuel companies don't want us to think that way. They don't want us to think that we have power in the palms of our hand. They want to think that we're beholden to them for power. But actually, you're absolutely right. Almost any place in the world you can go and you can find either, wind or solar or tidal or whatever you need to power things. It's just they don't want us to think that way.
And it's not. It would be another thing too if Australia was like, I don't know, some other country that wasn't going to see many effects of climate change. I don't know which countries exactly those are. I think it's probably like Mongolia, although I think it'll get even drier.
Right.
So that's not even true. But, your average American, Midwesterner or something who's like, I'm not scared of the oceans. Come and get me. There's thousands of miles between me and the ocean. I just think that for Australia, when there's wildfires and stuff like that, you're seeing the direct effects of it, and you're not going to do anything about it. And again, I get that it's your government. I'm not saying Australians are bad. I think you're wonderful people. Every Australian that we've had the fortune to talk to is so nice.
Yep.
And a lot of you are trying to do the right things. And a lot of you are probably being impacted by this Victorian tax.
Right.
So, yeah, I just...
Well, the key here is spread the word. I mean, what's great about this video is it's funny, it'll keep people's attention, and it's truthful.
Right. And the same thing with this Australian thing. Like, if you're from another country, there's a good chance that you don't have the population that the United States does, which means that, again, your voice is a little bit louder
Right.
Within your country. And if you can get your country to flip and do something different, you can change the whole freaking world, because that's all it takes. It only takes a few countries doing one thing, just like in the United States. A couple states will pass some legislation, doing something, and then the rest of the states will follow.
Right. The numbers are actually on your side. Like, the numbers are getting better for your argument now because the price of renewables is going down. And so it's harder for them to come up with arguments that, the fossil fuel companies can rely on, because it's getting cheaper for wind and solar all the time.
And it's like, you don't have that much oil in Australia, so
Right.
just switch to fully electric.
Right.
You could power it all by solar, probably on everyone's property. If not,
Microgrids.
there's and macro grids.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much space in Australia.
Well, and the biggest argument has been for years this unreliable, well, the sun goes down, the wind doesn't blow.
Oh my gosh.
It's just because of batteries, and that's just such a new technology, a new price point, basically, that no one ever thought that you could build them at scale and at the cost that they are.
Yeah.
So now when everyone, is starting to understand that, it just becomes like, why didn't we think of this before?
I have an idea. I love wearing this suit.
It just gives you ideas, huh?
What Tesla really needs is like a trial program with the Powerwall.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could like plug in a Powerwall to your house and just like get to try it out, or if they could simulate it by like shutting off your main breaker and showing like the rest of the house functioning on the Powerwall, or disconnect you from the grid, or do something like that, I think that would be really powerful. If Tesla could like come, visit you, have the Powerwall.
I know. I hear you. I don't want to be negative. Because the utility has to sign off on, so you're saying don't even connect to the grid with it, just your house? Okay, yeah, that's possible. It's
Because
just,
to me, the most satisfying thing was when we were sitting in this room and the tree fell, knocked out our power, and the camera didn't even stop running.
I know.
Like, that to me was like, oh.
Yeah.
Because, I've been in buildings where, there's a backup generator and it takes 3 seconds and then the power comes back on, but that something happened.
between the Powerwall and Starlink, I have now had a shift in my feeling about being connected. Like,
Right.
I was always, as a New Englander, yes, we lose power a lot. And so I've always felt like, when the power goes, we're just going to have to wait. When the Powerwall came along, I was like, whoa, I've taken back control over that. And then when Starlink came along just a few months ago, and we realized, wow, even if wires get cut or Verizon goes down, like, we've got satellites.
Well, and it impacted our business quite a few times when we lost power, because we lost power. One time we had to go rent a generator. We were here. It was loud. We had to make sure that it was running. And it's snowy outside, so we'd carry it through the snow. It was icy and slushy and awful. And totally sucked. Then we couldn't even deliver. We couldn't even bring the stuff that we were shipping out to the post office.
Right, they were closed.
They were closed.
Right.
So we had to bring it all the way into Boston.
Right.
Go through hell to try and deliver all sorts of stuff. It was awful.
I know.
And all of that could be solved if there was just some battery backup and solar on the roof.
Yep.
Because every time that we've lost power, we've been able to recharge the batteries. And of course, we go through the house and shut off all things that don't need to be on. But it's amazing to feel that you have the
power.
That you have the power.
Yeah.
It's like, it's my power. What would I do with it?
All right, check this out, Jesse. This is bistable inflatable structures.
Okay. So what am I looking at?
It's a bistable inflatable structure.
Okay. So bistable, meaning it's stable twice.
Right, when it's flattened and when it's inflated.
Okay. So what is it for?
Well, researchers at Harvard's Paulson School of Engineering and Applied Sciences have developed this tent structure, which was inspired by origami to be used. Well, let's see what David Millikan, a PhD student at Harvard, said. He said, "You can imagine these shelters being deployed as part of the emergency response in a disaster zone. They can be stacked flat on a truck, and you only need one pressure source to inflate them. Once they're inflated, you can remove the pressure source and move on to the next tent."
Oh.
Chuck Hoberman, the co-author of the paper, said, by using inflatable reversible actuation to achieve hard-walled structural enclosures, we see important applications not only here on Earth, but potentially as habitats for lunar or Mars exploration.
Cool.
Now, I never know when I see this stuff if this is just cool and it's not going to be used, or if this is like actually like, we were waiting for this to actually explore the lunar landscape with.
Right.
Do we need this or not?
Well, obviously, if you were on the moon, you wouldn't want to be setting up a tent with those big space gloves on.
True.
But then again, what's a tent going to do on the moon? That's my first question.
Oh, so you don't need a tent on the moon? There's no wind.
There's no wind. There's no rain.
There's no rain. There's no bears.
There is solar.
There's no bears.
There's no bears.
This is a great place to go camping.
There is solar radiation.
Oh, so do you have to block that?
I think your
Just go to the
spacesuit-
dark side of the
I
moon.
think your spacesuit
Oh, no, the dark side of the moon is covered with solar.
Well,
Go to the light side of the moon.
covered with solar. What?
The sun is hitting it.
Oh yeah. Well,
So it's actually the light side of the moon.
Well, no. It's
The dark
just
side?
one side of the moon that we never get to see.
Is it get hit by the sun sometimes?
Yeah.
It does. So is there a
At the
place?
same rate as every other.
Oh, so you can't hide from the sun.
longitude of
You
the-
can't hide from the sun.
Right. I think.
I kind of thought you
I
could.
think that on Mars, probably.
Are we talking the moon or Mars? Which are we talking about?
Well, they're similar. I
Okay.
think that on both, you're probably going to want to dig underground.
Hmm.
I know that everyone likes the bubble, crater
bubbles.
city. That looks cool.
So we're gonna have to live underground
I think we're probably going to have to live underground.
because of solar radiation.
Because of solar radiation for the most part.
Uh-huh.
But,
Can we have some special glass or something?
So what we could do on Mars is terraform it.
Okay.
So get
an atmosphere.
Get an atmosphere, an ozone layer.
That's gonna take a while.
It's the Has everyone watched History of the Entire World? I guess. If you haven't watched that, oh boy. If you thought that you were done watching YouTube videos for the day, have I got a great video for you to watch called History of the Entire World? I guess. And
Oh, the I guess is in there.
yes.
Oh,
History of the Entire World, I guess, by Bill Wirtz.
okay. I'll have
It's
to
fantastic.
watch that.
It's the best. It came out a couple years ago. I watch it every so often, and I'm always entertained and excited by it.
Cool.
All right, what's our next story?
The Messerschmitt Carbonroller.
I'm sorry, come again?
The Messerschmitt Carbonroller.
Okay. And is it what I think it is?
I don't know. What do you think it is?
So it looks like it's a 3-wheeled
Yep.
vehicle.
Yep.
Okay. And it's called the Messerschmitt?
Yeah, it's made by Messerschmitt, the German company that used to make airplanes in World War II.
Right. That's all I remember them from.
Uh-huh.
I didn't think you'd keep the name.
Why not? Because he was a Nazi?
I just didn't think that you'd do that. I don't know. That's just kind of my thought.
Yeah, I didn't
thought you'd
either.
change it to something else.
It's owned by Airbus now, actually. They bought the company that bought the company that bought, like, it's
okay,
nested.
right. So why not
But-
just rename it to?
Yeah, why not just rename
Free
it? He
flight.
was an engineer that joined the Nazi party. So, yeah, I feel like that pretty much should get rid of that
You
name.
just change the name. Listen, hey,
Right.
just change the name.
Right.
It's just a marketing thing. Okay, so let's
Well,
talk
how about if we
about
call it the KR E5000, which is what it is? Does that make you feel better?
Sure.
Okay. So you want to know what's the specs?
Yes.
Because I think even forgetting the name, this is a stupid idea.
Okay.
Okay, so let's first talk specs. It's got a 5 kilowatt motor. That's in horsepower. That's 6.7 horsepower. So it's about as powerful as a ride-on lawnmower.
Okay.
It's got a 1.4 kilowatt hour battery. So really tiny battery. Now they claim a range of 50 miles or 80 kilometers. That cannot be accurate.
Okay.
I mean, maybe at ultra slow speeds or something. I don't know. You can get a second battery, which would then increase the range.
Okay. So
If you see in
is
this
it all
video here,
electric?
well, they sell it as both a gas and all electric, which is again why I'm not that excited because it's not an all electric company or anything. It's just they're selling it both ways. Here's my thing. See, it's one. You have to get in it kind of like a plane.
Okay.
It's got no real covering here, so I guess it's just for nice days. It does look a little tippy. You see that shot there where it's like,
Okay.
and it costs $16,500, so it's not cheap. I mean, for that price, you can get an Arcimoto. You could get, a Solo.
I think I would get the Arcimoto.
I would. You can seat two.
Right.
It has way more power.
Right.
Has more range.
It's friendlier.
It's friendlier. It's easy to get in and out of.
Friendlier in more ways than one. Would be my argument. Yeah. Okay. So
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I can understand if you came across one of these that was made back in the 40s or something, you want to restore it. But no, this is made now. Like, this is a new thing. There's some old drawings that they're basing it off of. But I mean, even the video is a little cringy. It's like, why are you doubling down on your history?
I don't know. Well, I like how the history starts with Elvis.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Let's get through So anyway, I wanted to bring it to you guys' attention because it's just like, why? What? Like, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe, please tell me if, would...
Yeah, no. Someone wants this car.
No, I'm sure somebody
does. Wants this.
I'm just saying
but here's the thing. It's not going to be their only vehicle.
No.
It's going to be a secondary vehicle.
You can't pick up your kid at school. You can't, can you even go grocery shopping in this thing? I don't know.
There's some room in the back.
I don't even know if this is road legal. It doesn't look like it is.
Right. But maybe it's a neighborhood electric vehicle.
That would be fine, I suppose. But why are you showing it on the track with a guy in a helmet? It's such a joke. Like, on a track, it's not even whatever. Okay. Whatever.
Okay.
I want to talk about the Tesla Texas crash some more because I have a theory. I didn't really want to talk about this on the show because, I don't know. I'm not qualified, probably. But we know a couple more things about the crash than we did before. First, I thought this was two young people, and that made more sense to me somehow. But when I found out that it was a 58-year-old anesthesiologist, William Varner, and that his passenger, who was sitting in the passenger seat, was a 70-year-old, I was like, this doesn't make much sense. Let me kind of draw the scene for you here. Calm night, Texas, Friday, 11:25 p.m. Two gentlemen want to go out and show off the car to one another because William was a car aficionado by all accounts. Yeah. So he wants to show his friend William the car. William says to his passenger, why don't you get into the passenger seat? I'll sit in the back and we'll test out a feature that I haven't even paid for, full self-driving, and we'll put it into autopilot. Now, you might be saying what? Right. You can't drive in an autopilot even if you were in the driver's seat because there's no lines on the road here. We're talking about a cul-de-sac of a very expensive neighborhood in Texas.
Right.
So you can't put it in autopilot. If you could, let's say you could. Let's say it would go into autopilot. Then the car would drive at no more than probably 25 miles an hour. And the worst you could do to this car would be to brush it up against a tree. Okay? Are we on the same page?
You could maybe.
But that's not what happened. That's not what happened. I'm going to tell you what happened. This is completely conjecture. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not a lawyer. I am not a criminologist. I think I know what happened. I think there was a third person in the car because it does not make sense that you put a person in the passenger seat and then me as the owner is going to sit in the back. No. What are you even talking about? You got to have a driver. And the driver, I think, was somebody younger. I think it was probably someone related to them.
So
nephew or niece, maybe.
So here's the thing, right? You let's say you're the driver of the vehicle. Let's say you are instructed to probably floor it. Go ahead, floor it. See what it does. Go ahead. You've never experienced that kind of car before because no one has experienced that much car before. You hit 70 miles an hour.
You hit the curb.
It's gone. You've smashed it. Here's what I'm thinking. If you're a younger person, you're probably going to fare a little bit better in the accident. I don't know who was wearing their seatbelt and who wasn't. We don't have any of that information. Let's say everyone was wearing their seatbelt.
I don't think they were, actually.
But let's say that they were.
Okay.
I'm going to go with they were. Let's go with that.
Okay.
You're the driver. You come back from the crash. I don't know if you've passed out or not. You wake up. The other two passengers are either in some way incapacitated. You
freak out,
go to get help.
Yep.
So you run back to the house, not that far.
As you're running,
car catches on fire.
You look back, oh my God, car's on fire.
So you run faster back to the house. Let's say, because you're probably not in a position to be able to pull fully grown men out of a vehicle.
That's on fire.
That's on fire. Even before it was on fire, your first thought might be, I will go get help.
Right.
You go get help. Car catches on fire. Whoever is the help, hopefully, let's say it's your father.
Okay.
And your father walks outside, sees the car on fire, goes to investigate. People in the car are dead. What is your thought?
Protect my kid.
Protect whoever it was because it's over. There's no sense in making it worse.
Right.
So
you weren't there. You just tell them, hey, you weren't there.
You go down to the basement.
Right.
I'll talk to the police.
Right.
You call the police, you call the fire department, you have the thing taken care of.
And you just say basically,
I don't know
think
what
they were out,
happened.
the car was driving
Right.
itself.
And cops buy it. Great. No further investigation to find the person with the bloodied nose
Right.
In your basement or driving away from the scene. Who
Right.
knows? I just think that is so much more likely.
And here's the thing: the NTSB, they're very good at looking at crash scenes. They're not very good at crimes. They're not
Right.
very good at like finding missing people.
Now, I don't really think that this was like an intentional crime.
No,
That,
I
like,
think it was an
I'm going to
accident.
kill these two people
No.
by getting into a car accident myself. I don't think that. I
No.
think it was an accident.
I do too.
So this is my best conjecture estimation. Now, do I want to be talking about this? No.
No.
Kind of my job to talk about it. We do the news. I have to talk about it.
As later today, as you're thinking about this, I want you to think about this one thing,
Yep.
which is the empty driver's seat. Either
Mm-hmm.
these guys were doing some nefarious thing where they're trying to get the car to drive itself. Okay, you can go down that road. But if you say to yourself, that doesn't sound likely. This guy's a doctor. Why were they trying to test this? And even if they had tried it, it wasn't going to do what the media said it did. So what's a more likely thing is that there's a third person who's the driver. Where is that driver now?
Right.
That's what it seems obvious to me.
Right. Now, I mean, could he have gotten in the back seat with a stick and pushed on the accelerator pedal? Sure, yeah. That's
why would
another
he do that?
possibility. I don't know.
He
right.
wouldn't.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Because if you own a Tesla and you've used autopilot at all, and this is not a new car, it's not his new car or anything like that.
It's a
not like
2019.
Exactly. He's had the car for a while. He's definitely experienced autopilot. This was not an autopilot thing. When you're in nice hoitsy-toitsy neighborhood, the roads are clear. It's Friday night at 11:25 p.m.
I bet you couldn't even get the car into autopilot on those kind of roads.
definitely.
We've tried. Like sometimes you can fool it if there's enough delineation on the road, it might pick up the curbing as lines. So maybe, but he would have known that it wouldn't give you a very fun ride. Like it's not like it'll be a flawless ride. It'll be the scariest like whoa, whoa ride. So he's
And
not
you
going to do
wouldn't-
that.
Yeah, you wouldn't be in the passenger seat or the back seat. The other thing, Friday night, 11:25 at night, alcohol is involved. Unquestionably.
Yes, somebody. Exactly.
Right. Now, I'm not
Which
trying to
means
make-
you're probably not making great decisions either, you know?
Right. I'm just saying, what is more likely? That
Exactly.
the car somehow had autopilot engaged, even though it says it didn't,
Right.
or someone was a little drunk, smashed the car at the instruction, basically,
Right.
of the guy in the back, probably,
Right.
who was just like, get it up to 70. I can handle it because I'm a 58-year-old man, whereas you might be someone who's never driven a car before.
And I mean, I want to talk about the fact that you and I have been in Teslas a lot. We're used to kind of flooring it on straightaways. And I got to tell you, when you've never done that before, because I do this with people in the car all the time who are never experienced it, the first time that you experience that, you freak out. You're just
yeah.
like, you're just not, your brain is like, I can't expect this to
it's
happen.
roller coaster.
Right.
That's
so if
all
you're
I
the
hear.
driver and it's the first time and you mash that pedal, you probably don't even move your foot, even though the tree is coming, because you're like, what is going on?
Either that or you go for the brake, you miss, you hit the accelerator again. I mean, or you do hit the brake and you're already traveling 100 miles an hour. You're in a
Right.
Model S, for goodness
Right.
sake. So I just think that is a whole lot more likely
Right.
than full self-driving crash the car. And it would make sense why everyone would be like, oh, yeah, it's just they were testing full self-driving.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
You know, because that would be a great excuse. If this was a Corvette, you couldn't. Why was there no one in the driver's seat?
Right.
There wouldn't be this question at
Right.
all. Because it's a Tesla, you can somehow fool the cops doing that.
Exactly.
And I don't know. I think it's suspect.
It's very suspect. I hope the police are looking into other options, and we just don't know that. But I feel like
I mean, look, it is done. It's over.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not looking for someone to go to jail.
no,
over
and you know,
this.
I know a lot of people are like, "Why are you even talking about this? It's disrespectful to the dead people." Yes, it is. You're right. I mean, it's horrible to talk about this, but the reason I'm talking about it is, like you pointed out, the media has grabbed onto the story.
Right, they're talking about it all
The
they
world
want.
now walks around as Tesla drove itself into tree. That is what the world knows right now. And the reason why Tesla is giving data and talking about this is we can't let this stand. We know this isn't what happened, okay?
Right.
It's not what happened. It's just that there was a cop there, and that's what he saw. So he told the reporter. Now the reporter said, that's what the cop said. There's no one thinking straight here about that's not what happens.
Right.
And so we're telling you what we think happened so that you guys can also give it some thought. Follow this story. Hopefully the truth will come out because why should we let Tesla take the fall for something that's not Tesla's fault?
And I mean, I think that Tesla's going to be able to prove it pretty unequivocally.
They already pretty much have. They've already said like it wasn't in autopilot.
Right. And I mean, yeah, the NTSB is going to have to take their log seriously.
Right.
Because
and so then
just,
when it wasn't in autopilot, they're going to have to go, oh, well then
what else
could it have been? It's going to have to be a third driver.
Right.
I think. I mean, a third person who was the
Or
driver.
a brick.
Or a brick. But I just don't see these guys being that dumb. All right. Our next story here is from a tweet from Greta Thunberg. She says, when you compare the overall current best available science to their insufficient hypothetical climate targets, you clearly see that there's a gap. There are decades missing. Until we address this gap, no real solutions will be found. Let's call out the bullshit. Mind the gap. And, well, let's take a look at her video.
Specially built receivers are automatically activated to warn of the impending hazard.
Earth Day 2021. At the Leaders Climate Summit, countries will present their new climate commitments, like net zero emissions by 2050. They will call these hypothetical targets ambitious. But when you compare our insufficient targets with the overall current best available science, you clearly see that there's a gap. There are decades missing. Of course, we welcome all efforts to safeguard present and future living conditions, and these targets could be a great start if it wasn't for the fact that they are full of gaps and loopholes, like leaving out emissions from consumption of imported goods, as well as international aviation, shipping, and the burning of biomass, using baseline manipulation, excluding most tipping points and feedback loops, and ignoring the global aspect of equity and historic emissions, as well as making these targets completely relying on future fantasy-scaled, currently barely existing negative emissions technologies. The point is, or as we say in Swedish, the sum of the cardamom is that we can keep cheating in order to pretend that these targets are in line with what is needed. But while we can fool others, and even ourselves, we cannot fool nature and physics. The emissions are still there, whether we choose to count them or not. When leaders now present these very insufficient targets, they admit that they are surrendering on the 1.5 degree target, surrendering on their promises and on our futures. Still, as it is now, world leaders get away with it, since the gap of awareness is so immense. And this is the heart of the problem. We understand that the world is very complex, that many are trying their best, and that this isn't going to be easy. And of course, these very insufficient targets are better than nothing. But we cannot be satisfied with something just because it's better than nothing. We have to go further than that. We must believe that we can do this, because we can. I don't know about you, but I sure am not willing to give up. Not in a million years. We will keep on demanding and fighting for a safe future. Every fraction of a degree matters, and will always matter. You may call us naive for believing that change is possible. But at least we are not so naive that we believe that things will be fixed by companies and countries making vague, distant, hypothetical targets without any real pressure from the media and the general public. The gap between what we are doing and what needs to be done is widening by the minute. And the gap between the urgency needed and the current level of awareness and attention is becoming more and more absurd. And the gap between our so-called climate targets and the overall current best available science should no longer be possible to ignore. There are several decades missing. This gap of awareness, action, and time is the biggest elephant that has ever found itself in any room. And unless we address this, we cannot achieve any real changes. And no real solutions will be found. Let's call out their bullshit and please mind the gap.
Please mind the gap between the train and the platform.
So yeah, we're talking about the big thing this week of government saying that we're going to cut carbon by 50%, and that's the thing. Politicians dumb down their messages into little bite-sized pieces, and we, the public, eat them up.
Yep.
If they actually try to talk about the details of an issue, then the media gets tired and they don't report on it. Or honestly, most of the time, we people just tune out. So Greta does a great job here of explaining in basic terms that we are being bamboozled by our leaders and told that we are now doing something with goals and targets. I think goals and targets are great. Look at the reason why I like Elon Musk. It's because he's doing something every day. He's pushing as hard as he can to build products that are cleaner, that will transition us away from fossil fuels.
And get us onto another planet.
Exactly.
I mean, what a big goal.
Right.
What other company has any goal that's anywhere close? What other country has a goal that's anywhere close?
But here's the thing. There's a difference between making a goal that you're actually trying to achieve and making a goal because it sounds good. And I think we've mistaken it. And I think we should actually come up with a new word. I think that we should keep the word goal to mean what it means, which is I have a goal to do this thing. And then we should come up with some other word. I don't know what it should be.
I have a PR idea.
PR idea, right. Which is I have this thing I'm going to float. Everyone's going to focus their attention on that instead of what am I actually doing behind the scenes to do the thing I'm saying I'm going to do.
Classic magician misdirection of look at the flowy thing while I steal your wallet.
Here's my pollution-y company, right? I make pollution all day, and I go, and in 2040, we will be green net zero.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you know what? They're going to be green someday.
Right.
Meanwhile, what are they doing behind the scenes?
In 20 years. It's like this.
And are they even trying to do that, or are they just saying it so that in 2040...
They can go by 2060.
Right.
We will definitely, and we'll go. Oh, good,
right.
Because I think it's a human problem that the leaders know they're not going to be leaders forever.
Right.
So how can they profit as much as they can before they leave or die?
Right.
Because 2040 to them is like, well, I'm going to be just about done here on this planet.
Right. I mean, because I'm a politician, I'm an elected official. I've had things I wanted to get done, and let me tell you, when I propose things that I want to get done, it ain't easy. Most people don't want to hear what I have to say because if I want to get something done, that means something else has to change. And that means those people are like, wait, what? What's he trying to change?
Right. Don't do that.
The way we've been doing stuff for a long time?
Right.
Who is this guy?
Right.
And you immediately make enemies. I'll be honest. People are just like, and the more you want to change, the more enemies you make.
Right.
And so you have to make these calculated decisions all of a sudden. You have to be like, oh, wait, so if I push really hard to get that thing done and I don't, then when I run for office again, I'm going to have to say, well, I didn't accomplish that thing I tried, and a lot of you now hate me.
Right. Or you do accomplish the thing that you wanted to accomplish.
And a lot of you now hate me.
Right, and you don't get reelected. So
Right.
it's like, it's always this fine balance of I want
Right.
everyone to like me,
Right.
which means that I can't do anything because if I say and do something that's actually going to make change, people don't like it. But I really think that it comes down to human lifespan. I think that if we lived an extra 300 years and would actually see the effects of climate change, and it's not just something that I guess my grandchildren have to. I don't even know what my grandchildren look like because I don't even have kids yet, or I do have kids yet, and I don't care about them stupid little kids. I mean, I think that we're not good at thinking long term. We get back to the education thing. I know we talk about it a lot, but
well, and also
it's the only way to think
never
about it.
in our lifetimes, in the generations of humans that have been on the earth, do I think we've had such an impact on future generations as we do today. Like, if you go back a few hundred years ago, the worst you could do, you could try and burn every tree you saw, and you could try and do whatever, like kill every person you saw. There's only so much damage you could do because of the machines that we had at our disposal, right? I mean, you had bows and arrows and swords and stuff, right? Now you can do so much damage,
right?
And
especially because there's so many more people that you can put those things into the hands of and create all the infrastructure for. But I mean, I think that we have throughout history cared a lot about the people who did make lasting changes, the kings and the popes and stuff, the people who decided to do the big things and to send the people to war and to construct great, wonders of the earth. Oh wow, that building sure is pretty.
Right.
We care a lot about it. Okay, great. We seem to have stopped caring about the things that are going to be long lasting as long as they're not a building. Like, I think that we just, throughout human history, we never even considered that we would ever have an impact on the environment. The environment was just so big.
We could always take from it.
Right. And
that's why it's such a hard issue to get behind, because it seems so non-human.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about trees or the climate, it's like, well, that's not anything to do with humans.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or rainforests or
Right.
other species. People are just like, well, whatever. Orangutans, dolphins. I don't
I'd
care.
rather care about puppies,
Right.
or something that's like, oh, that's so cute.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you can care about whatever you want to care about. I'm talking about the planet. I'm talking about the planet scale.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we do the show. It's like, we're trying to talk about the fun stuff. Yeah, driving a Tesla's fun and it's good for the planet.
But honestly, it's just a great little
Yeah.
hookaroonski to get people hooked onto environmentalism. Because
Right.
if you had never been thinking about environmentalism before, good chance you wouldn't buy an EV unless it's a Tesla
Right.
all of a sudden, or one of these new performance EVs. You'd never think of buying a Nissan Leaf because that thing was boring. It looked like an alien bug thing, and no one wanted whatever.
Right.
It only had 70 miles of range. Who
know.
cares? Suddenly, a Tesla is a very attractive option, and now it would make I'm saving a bunch of money by not paying for gas. I could put solar on my roof. Oh my gosh, I put solar on my roof. I'm saving money.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think we have to trick people through economics
I know.
into doing the right thing, and that sucks.
I know.
And I think that there is some percentage of the population who will get tricked, so to speak, into being an environmentalist, who are going to see the impacts and be like, "Well, I'm already doing the right thing." Much harder to change someone's mind of someone who's already doing the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get them on the right side, it's like you're already doing it. So I'm like, oh, I'm already pedaling. Okay, we'll keep doing it. I just think. And that's why I'm so excited about Tesla. It's the one thing that you can dangle in front of someone and be like, look, it's a luxury car. And they go, ooh. Instead of like, reusable grocery bags. Some people go, I'm going to have to remember to bring it. What if I have to wash it? All of those.
Yep.
It's just... Solar panels? I don't understand it. It's a very complex
I don't
subject.
like the look of it
I don't
on
know
my
what
roof.
kilowatts mean because no one taught me because
Right.
school doesn't teach
So
things
it's just
very good.
confusing now.
Right. I don't remember my science class in 6th or 7th grade when we may have learned about watts or maybe didn't.
Why don't they teach solar and wind in school? It'd be such a fun topic.
Such a fun and
You could
easy
build a little
topic.
solar thing on the roof and
Sun comes up pretty much every school precinct in the world, maybe not like in northern Alaska, but that could be a topic. Hey,
Right.
you know how the sun stays up half the freaking year and then it
Right.
goes away for half the year?
Yep, I know.
Let's talk about it. I don't know. I just we do need to do better. And I think that unfortunately and fortunately, we're talking to a group of people, you guys, who are kind of thought leaders.
Yeah.
I want to put that crown on your head. You are way ahead of everybody else. If you're watching this, if you're supporting us, thank you so much. But thank you in more ways than one because you can make a huge impact.
Yeah.
Through your
That's a really
community,
good point.
through the people that you associate yourself with, but also if you wanted to run for office. And hey, if you want to run for office, I want to help you.
Yeah, tell us.
So tell us if you're running for office. There might be a couple people who watch this show who hear about you that are, in your precinct or whatever, who could vote for you. So, I mean...
And help you.
Put up flyers.
Right,
do
because
whatever.
flip it around for a second.
Yeah.
If you heard about someone near you that was running who's a fan of the show, you'd be like, oh, I'll help them. I know you would.
It's the crazy thing. We reach out to a lot of our fans a lot of the time, and the funny thing is, not a lot of introductions. Oh, hi, I'm Jesse. We know each other. It's like I don't know the viewer that well, but they're like, I feel like I know you guys. You do know us.
Right.
You've probably been listening to us for a very long time. So you actually do know us. And that's the advantage. We're that mutual friend
Right.
who could connect you with people who could help you with your campaign or whatever.
Right.
And I wish that I could, have a YouTube channel that was just a bunch of goofy stuff. And here's what I'm interested in this week. Oh, I made this thing out of stuff that I found. Like, oh, okay, fun. I just don't feel like I can do that and live with myself. I think that we have found ourselves in this situation where we can do a heck of a lot of good. And I never thought that I would find myself in this situation, but I'm here. And just like the guy who found himself on the bike, I'm going to keep pedaling. So anything you want, any help you need, let me know.
And don't worry about winning. I think a lot of people think they won't run because they're worried they won't win. You probably won't. Let me just break it to you right now. When you first run for an office, there's a really good chance you're not going to win. Guess what you're going to do? First of all, you're going to learn a lot. Secondly, you're going to actually change the discussion, and you're going to change whoever you ran against who does win.
Right. Let's talk about Andrew Yang. Did not win. Did not even get into did not even
Yep.
do that well in the primary. But
What are we all talking about
We
now?
talk about a lot of the things that Yang was talking about. And you may disagree. You may agree. I don't agree with everything that he was proposing and talking about. But
He raised the level of discourse
and
because he entered the race.
Exactly. And he really did a good job of explaining himself. That's all you have to do.
Right.
You just have to say, hey, electric school buses. You just have to say, hey, I think solar should be part of we should start a municipal grid. We should do a number of different things.
Because if you have a guy in office or a gal in office who is never run, no one ever runs against them, guess what? They don't care.
And you should look into your local politicians and see in the last election who ran against them.
Right. Probably nobody.
Right. And I don't even mean, your senators and
No,
Congress
just go down
people.
to city council or
Right.
select people.
See the last time they had that they, ran against someone.
Right.
Just see.
Democracy only works when there's more than one person on the ballot.
gotta
Otherwise,
stress test
it's basically a monarchy.
Right. It's kind of similar to evolution.
Right.
If you take a bunch of butterflies or whatever and you help them out of their chrysalises
Right.
and you feed them all the sugar water they could want,
They just become weak.
They would just become weak. And that's the same thing with our
Right.
democracy.
You gotta
We need
stress
to be
test it.
stressing it. We need to
Exactly.
be pushing it.
Right.
Not necessarily in the bad ways, but we need to have new blood in there.
And when you run, you get press. It's automatic. The press has to cover, there's another person running. I guess I'll go see what they say. And that means people are going to hear you.
You have a platform there.
Exactly.
And that is the most important thing. So I just want to plant that seed in your head. And maybe it doesn't have to be you. Maybe you can convince your uncle or something to do it. But probably it's going to have to be you.
Yep.
Because I'll be honest, if you're watching this and someone else isn't, it's going to have to be you.
Right.
Just a thought. I just with some of the political stories this week, like there was a story about California is going to pass something and there's going to be, and it like sounds really good and it is probably pretty good, but like it doesn't do much. And it's like if we just had
Oh, you're talking about the L.A. Passing by unanimous vote.
Yeah.
In the city council, they passed like a resolution that says that we're against, fossil fuels.
Right.
And it's like, that's awesome.
right.
But it's just a resolution and it doesn't have any teeth.
And then I was thinking, and we were looking at our Patreon, and there's like 5,000 patrons. And I was like, if every single one of them ran for office and only like 2% of them won, like that's a whole lot of people
Right.
that would now be in government
Right.
doing good things. And it's
Exactly.
just like, that's what I'm excited about, is that, I just think that you guys are freaking awesome, because I've talked to our patrons and I've
Yep.
talked to the people who are not patrons. I've read the YouTube comments. We put you through some kind of filter and we found the good ones.
Right.
You're the good ones. Talk amongst yourselves in the comments.
Yeah. When we launch Now We Act, which is very close to being launched,
so
this
excited.
is what I want to do there. I want to help people who want to run for office, because there's so much we can do to help you that if it was available to me when I ran for state rep, back in 1990, would have been amazing to me. I just didn't know anything. So I
Right.
just kind of learned by bumping into walls.
It's all
But,
about
like,
education. If you
Yeah.
know where the walls are going to be and you could sidestep a couple of them,
I spent
you'll
so
get
much
further.
energy on things that were completely, looking back, a waste of time. And making flyers and stuff that just didn't do anything. If I had known what to do back then, I could have gotten more votes. Now, would I have won? Probably not. But like, I actually pushed the debate. I pushed the discourse, and I learned a lot. And that's what I'm saying. We can help you with. I'm just so excited to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
We got to get back to the show, though.
We do have to finish up Tesla Time News, but thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you next week. Now you know.